Doing this as a live. What I wanted to talk about today was using clear coats and how clear coats are used in exterior wood restoration. Get a lot of people, homeowners, even contractors. Contractors will get a job, they've already started it, they've already put a bid on it. Then they reach out and say, hey, Wizard, hey, Everett, the customer wants a clear coat. What do I do? What's the best clear coat? Blah, 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 blah. Well, if you've already done that, then you're already behind the game because you've already should have had the discussion with the person about what a clear coat does and is for exterior wood applications. So basically what we do when we talk about clears, we're really talking usually about a two-part system where we stain first and then we put on a clear coat. It could be a polyurethane or a varnish. For today, I'm going to use a marine varnish, which I like when I use exterior applications and what I'm going to get into. But anyway, the two-part system is great for indoors where it's temperature controlled and it's really good for your furniture and so forth like that. However, when you're outside, that's a whole different ball game. First of all, let's talk about clears. Clears are just that. They're clear. So guess what they don't have? Pigmentation. And that's where you get your UV protection. So if you put a clear, you don't have any UV protection. The sun is going to break it down. So let's say you put a clear outside and you've put the clear on top of something that's been stained. The sun is just going to gray that out underneath that clear coat. And then what happens is, how do you get the clear coat off? It's made to last for quite a while. And what are you going to use to strip it and get it off? Okay, so you used to use methylene chloride. Well, you can't really get that too easily today, and especially when you're doing something large like a deck. So what do? You need a solvent-based stripper usually. You're probably going to have some sanding. It's going to be a mess. The other thing too is the clear coat is actually going to crack and peel on the surface, even though the stain is probably a little bit, still maintained underneath. So that's a problem. And then you just got a mess to deal with. Now, where we do use that, and we usually put a lot of clear coats on it, we maintain the coat underneath. Boats, where we use marine varnish and we've stained any wood on the boat, but that'll break down too. And then you're still having to restore that at some point. But you're going to keep adding clear coats, sand in between, add clear coats, and then that kind of helps build that up. And you have that nice natural look. It's hard to do that on a deck when you take something very large like a deck and deal with that, or a wood-sided home. We had a log cabin once where somebody went and put a polyurethane, a poly, on the exterior of the logs, and within a year, it sold beautifully because it looked great when they went to buy it. But a year later, it was cracking and peeling all over. It was a mess. We actually had to media blast it because that was the best way to restore it in that case. So we had to take it all the way back down to the wood. It was a mess to even try to get something like that off. So again, let's talk about some of these clear coats. Oh, the doors, exterior doors, garage doors, that kind of stuff. They usually have overhangs, a little protection, whatever. They're the kind of things we would put marine varnish on. Now, we like marine varnish over polyurethane for doors. Some people will use polys. I'm a big fan of the marine varnish. You still have to have somebody on a maintenance plan where you come back, usually yearly, do a light sanding and recoat it. Otherwise, what happens is when that breaks down, they usually break down at the bottom where the sun might be hitting the doors or the bottom parts of the doors, and they're wicking up moisture. So that's a whole nother thing with restoration, and another avenue for wood restoration people out there that are offering this type of service. But anyway, what happens is exterior wood will have a little bit of tint to it, even a natural. And most of your outdoor stains are called naturals. And then what they do is they'll take a natural tone of the wood and they just a little bit tint to it. So it still looks natural. It almost looks like it's a little bit wet when you have, we call it the wet look, and we say that to the customer. It's just a light tint. You can barely tell the difference between the front and the back with just that little bit of tint, but there's some UV protection. Actually, the darker colors and more pigmentation, they usually do hold up a little bit longer. But that's what an exterior stain would be. It have a little bit to it. What happens though is, even interior, what happens is you'll have this is more of exotic wood, so what happens is you have a hardwood. So what happens is you have your natural, and if we were just to put a clear on, it looks like that. Now, the problem with that is, again, it's a clear coat. So if we were to use this on a deck outside, there'd be nothing left to this. It would gray out within a few months because the sun just beats the crap out of it. So just a clear coat doesn't work. You wouldn't clear coat over the stain. I've had people say, oh, well, should I put Thompson's clear over it? No. Check out the price of different products and stuff, and you'll see the price point of Thompson's. Thompson's is not easy to remove. It's not the second part of a two-part. People think of it as a water sealer. And if you look at some of my other videos, you either have a sealer or you have a stain. A sealer really accentuates the wood, makes it stand out. Stains, depending on whether they're semi-transparent, semi-solid, solid, intermix, whatever they are, they'll give you just a little bit of tint, that kind of thing. But you do not want to put the clear coat because it just doesn't have that pigmentation. So what happens is we would take something that's already stained in the interior, and this has some stain on already, and what we want to do is we'll put some marine varnish on it, give it a little bit of shine, and it looks nice on furniture. That's not the way your deck is supposed to look. Your deck should not be shiny. A lot of times what people do when they do have a shiny deck and they didn't put a poly or marine varnish on it, guess what? Usually that means they had an oil base and they put a wet coat on a dry coat instead of wet on wet, and it stayed shiny because it didn't get into the wood. Shiny is usually a bad thing. Not always, depends on the product. So if we were to take this and we put it on the exterior, this is what happens, and this is why people love this. They think that is great. That's okay if you're inside. But if that is on the outside, this is bad because that sun will break down through that. That's only a clear coat. And then what happens is you can't remove that when it starts to crack and peel, which would be very quickly. And then how are you going to get back to this? You're going to have to restore this because this will break down through that clear. You're going to have to restore this no matter what, probably within 2 years. You can't get to it if you have this on it. So what happens is you'd have to get the poly off. Then you have to worry about the stain. It's a mess. It's not the way you do it. That's called a two-part system. Exterior stains that work really well on log cabins, on decks, on wood-sided homes are a single part, either a sealer, a semi, a stain, even paints, whatever. They're one part. Two parts are meant for something else, not for your deck, not for your cabin, not for your wood siding, not with the sun beating on it. Furniture, that looks great. Shelving looks great. That's the way it should be done. There's no UV protection in clear. Hope that explains it a little bit more in depth. I get the question asked a lot. Should I put Thompson's on it? Should I put a clear coat on it? What should I do? No, no, and no. You'll even get people that'll be very kind of forceful to you and say, yes, I want a clear coat. That's how you're supposed to do it. I know how to do it. I've been restoring furniture. I've been doing cabinets. I've been doing this all my life. And that's great. Have at it. Glad you did that all your life. Doesn't mean you're right when it comes to exteriors. There's interior, there's exterior. Let me just emphasize it again. You go back to that, and you come back to that a couple years, or you're the person that has to strip that off or restore that deck or log cabin, and you have a poly or marine varnish on it, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm Everett Abrams, the Wizard of Wood. Leave some comments, ask some questions, comment on the video. Let me know your thoughts as well. Thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.